The Florida Panthers take game one against the Tampa Bay Lightning, where they tilted the ice in the first 15 minutes. Not a lot of activity in the second. Tampa made a great push at the end, but it was the Panthers who prevailed in this one and now take a 1-0 series lead.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Sunday, April 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. For hockey news, you can follow me on X at @OneNoMansWolf. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at @LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150. Win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So the Florida Panthers, they go into this one where also I got a big credit to the crowd here in Sunrise, where it was a crowd that was on time to barely any empty seats into this one, and then really off jump for the Panthers. I mean, not surrendering a shot until 4 minutes left in the first period, and then really for the Panthers, really towards that third period, it was really a tight checking kind of game after they took the lead for them, and really the Panthers really set the tone as far as being at home and then taking away, getting into their game plan. How Tampa Bay really had to change things up and go away from theirs, but we do have a special guest here on the show today, and he is a guest that you have heard his voice plenty of times here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Joining me for this live post-game edition of the show, and for the playoffs, we will be doing live post-games for most of them. But joining me on today's edition, he is Florida Panthers historian Francisco Oporta. Welcome back to the show, my friend, on the Panthers 3-2 win to take a 1-0 series lead. How are you, my friend?
It's a good one, Armando. It's a very good one, especially an opening game win, an opening game victory in the opening round for the Panthers. I just posted it was April 17th, 1997 was the last time the Panthers won the first game of the opening round of the playoffs. That was There it is. Okay, my mic was muted there for a second. But April 17th, 1997 was the last time the Panthers opened the playoffs with an actual victory. So Panthers fans could actually feel happy after one game instead of all the doom and gloom as we've had countless times before. Even last season, they lost the opening game against the Bruins. So it's nice to start off on a good foot here.
Yeah, no doubt for them starting off on a good foot. And then when you think about for this one, where first 15 minutes, 9-0 as far as shots on goal, and then the last 5 minutes, it's 6-0 for the Panthers. I mean, really, when it came down to the first line for the Panthers was the one that set the tone, where Barkov was just everywhere in all three zones, back checking, breaking up passes. I mean, the Lightning were trying to force things off the rush, especially towards the end of their shifts and all. And the Panthers were really trying to counter on a lot of their chances. I mean, when they really got, and really what it came down to in the beginning was really when they got into the inner slot, for them, and just forcing Vasi to get to work. I mean, there were plenty of times where this could have been 2-0 really early on for them. But I mean, for the Panthers, I mean, there's times where you wish that the Panthers just lifted the puck a little more when they got up close too. But I mean, in the third period for the Panthers, I mean, that's what really happened with that backdoor feed from Barkov to Carter Verhaeghe for the first of the playoffs. But you also think about for the Cats about just how they managed things, set the pace for them, and really that's really that. And Paul also spoke about on Sunday. We spoke to him as there's not going to be one team who's going to take too much momentum in this one because of how mature these groups are as far as their runs that they have been on too. So I mean, I don't expect too many 15-minute stretches where it's just the Panthers dominating the pace of play. But I mean, it's great to have such a good start for them.
Yeah, that first 15 minutes of the game was incredibly unrealistic. That we're not going to see that, and we saw that as soon as the Lightning got their feet under them, they had the little bit of flurry there, and they scored the first goal of the game as well. So nobody was expecting it. They probably weren't expecting that either. From their end, like, oh, this is taking us a while just to get through. But I mean, it goes to show the amount of parity in this league that the Lightning, their first wild card spot facing the Panthers, division leaders, but that there's not really much of a gap between these two teams. And when you have an incredibly dangerous offense on the other end, it only exacerbates how well the Panthers defense did to contain that for those first 15 minutes. That was very surprising, but then they got things going again. And also you have to give credit to the Lightning in that first period because they held it together enough to only allow one goal as well. So, and then that momentum didn't really carry too much into the second period. The second period was very, both teams had their chances, but it wasn't as lively as we had seen with the Panthers flurry in the first period. And then of course the third period, which was just the teams trying to cap whoever made a mistake, quote unquote mistake. I don't think there were many mistakes in either end. This was a very fairly well played game on both ends, and I think goes to show you just how much these teams know each other, even though they didn't play each other as much this season compared to other seasons. But the difference now between these Panthers of 23-24 compared to the last time we had seen them with the Lightning, a team that couldn't score in the power play at all, had no real defensive presence to counteract the Lightning offense. If you want to play a slugfest with the Lightning, they'll play it with you. But this Panthers team, I liked how the players and everyone knows that now it's not so much offense, it's the defense. That's the pride of this team. And so they've found ways to make sure that the Lightning offense cannot overcome that team's weaknesses. And so their number one power play, and the Panthers held them. They got a power play goal. I'm just going to call it that, on a cross-checking penalty. But regardless, the Panthers defense, I think, was the star of the show.
Yeah, and the thing is for the Panthers blue liners is that they were able to be at their own blue line, relax, because the forward lines were really making it easy on them as far as their back checks, quicker loose pucks as well. For them, as far as that too, that's really what it really was the support of the forwards there for that made things a lot easier. And let's not forget that Aaron Ekblad this was his first game officially back. We knew for weeks that it was on track to be game one, but as far as closing gaps and having someone there, great communication on pinches too. That's especially on pinches for the Lightning. That's where you were looking at as far as what was going to be as far as them looking for extra offense towards the end of that, towards the end of the third period, because of the fact that the Panthers got that goal so early in the third. I mean, you think about two of the goals that happened in this game. They're on set plays. I mean, the Lightning's first goal was right off a faceoff that Sam Bennett unfortunately whiffed. Nico Mikkola loses Brandon Hagel. They score, but then you think about the fact that the Panthers had 15 plus minutes to talk in the locker room where the Panthers go on the power play. I mean, credit to Lundell. He took a penalty and then he drew a penalty too for them. So for the fact that they had the 15 minutes to discuss what they were going to do, great entry by the Panthers, and then Barkov just backdoor to Verhaeghe too. So it's also a little of what happens in between the TV timeouts, in between intermissions too, on really the conversation and just looking at the little bits of game planning too. And we're actually going to talk more about the game plan, something that Jon Cooper said in segment number 3, but also that was really important as far as setting things up. The fact that the Panthers really got to hone in on things, especially in between whistles.
Yeah, I mean, this postseason, it's especially this first round. I really don't see many weaknesses. That's because playoffs change a lot of things, and you have an incredibly well experienced Lightning team that's done it before, and you have this Panthers team coming off just missing out on that Stanley Cup. So I think once again it's going to be the teams that execute that one extra sequence ahead of the other team that capitalizes on that one mistake. And luckily the Panthers didn't have many of those mistakes, many of like an odd man rush or anything. There was probably maybe one that I can recall that actually happened today. So the Panthers were able to play their game and set the tone in a way where it never seemed like the Lightning had much of a foothold to set their own tone and change the tempo of this game.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think for the Panthers with their strong forecheck and just and we spoke about the depth for both teams as far as when you win and losing a lot of players, the Panthers have really shown as far as getting the necessary matchups for them. And really, that really helped with as far as, and even Paul Marie spoke about that time and you're going to see your third line match up with some of their top six from especially when they go on the road. So that is really going to be extremely important too with all of that. So, but we're going to transition over to segment number 2, where we're going to discuss more about our 3 stars of the game and when we thought this game was won. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and it's playoff times in the NBA and the NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your best place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots, home runs, slam dunks, all on the app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Also, this episode is brought to you by Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. Policy Genius helps you compare your options from top companies and their team of licensed experts and is on hand to help you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. Easily compare quotes from America's #1 insurers and just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Your work insurance policy may not offer enough protection to your family's needs. Even worse, it may not come if you leave your job. Like, check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonHL or click on the link in the description to get your free life insurance quote and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonNHL. Segment number 2 here on this Sunday, April 21st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Sunday. We are recording post-game with the Florida Panthers defeating the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 3-2 from Sunrise, Florida on Sunday afternoon from Amerant Bank Arena. Also, as we are recording this, the Rangers have gone up 3-0 over the Washington Capitals too. So that's giving you guys an idea of when we're recording if you're listening to this on audio. But also, three stars of the game for me is I'm going to go with Carter Verhaeghe. Even though he didn't score the game-winning goal, he just comes clutch so often for the Panthers. Just right place, right time when it came to just getting that redirection. And also, there's a lot of times where when the Florida Panthers did get in front, that it was just not lifting the puck high enough for them, where when Vasi was on the butterfly, the Panthers were just hitting them and even on their rebound opportunities. So Panthers were able to do that. Also, Barkov, 2 points on the night, gets my second star of the game. And then Matthew Tkachuk spoke about how his defensive game has just really elevated, and even spoke about it even prior to the preseason, to the regular season. If my numbers are down, but my defensive game is improving, then I like where my game is at. Who are your 3 stars for this one?
Well, those guys were the actual 3 stars of the game. That was as voted on by the writers today. but I'll keep two of them that you had, Verhaeghe and Barkov. Of course, playoff Verhaeghe is a thing, by the way.
Yes.
Right. If the NBA wants to make a commercial, they can make one for him because playoff Verhaeghe is definitely a thing.
16 postseason goals.
Exactly.
16.
Third or a third person I would put here. Sergei Bobrovsky. Why? That third period. That third period when the Lightning were pushing
the final
hard.
five.
Several portions where he was standing on his head and in the right position, stretching out his arm, making these incredible save on Stamkos that likely would have tied the game. It was him. He shut down the door. The Bobby chants going across the arena. That's what the Panthers paid him to do. That's the reason why he's getting those $10 million per year. Bobrovsky, how can you say no to that?
Yeah, he was a brick. He was definitely a brick wall. It's funny because I posted the GIF on my the Locked On Panthers Twitter page saying "You shall not pass" from Lord of the Rings, Gandalf, and Steven Stamkos scores with 9 seconds left too. So just incredible timing. But hey, that does not whole story about really how those last 5 minutes went for the Panthers as far as just their ability to just keep right in their own end, even when it was 6-on-4 for them too. And they kept Kucherov at bay too. Well, he only got that one shot on goal, and that was towards the end. I mean, that was on the one-timer save, and he retreated for that precise pass too. So really, when it came to that, the Panthers really had they had all eyes on him and really protected the middle too. When it came to that bumper pass to Braden Point, had a few opportunities. And when Michael Eyssimont is the guy who's creating the majority of the opportunities in the beginning of the game, you're going to take that if you're the Panthers. As far as the first 15 minutes of this one, so that's really what sticks out as far as the constant discussion of what's going to be the top six, and then depth versus depth for them. And the guy they came out hitting. This was like almost like about let me look up the exact number. This was like about 100 hits.
Every player on both sides recorded at least one hit in this game.
Like, yeah. So looking this up as we speak, as this is like as if we're conducting this as if it's like live radio. 55-44 in hits. Like, very physical game as far as that tight checking. Dmitry Kulikov had a big hit early in the game that really
It's funny.
Go ahead.
You mentioned that because they actually asked, and I'm sure you saw it. They asked Tkachuk about the hits earlier. He thought that some guy registered at least 10, but every player on both sides registered at least a hit. But it's also funny that Paul Maurice, even though he said it would. Everybody got hit. It didn't feel as physical as he would have expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see any of the massive scrums. They'll probably appear in game 2. We'll have the massive line scrums between both teams. But I think we should also take note of the discipline that the Florida Panthers played with today, because we know the Panthers are, especially a guy like Sam Bennett, is aching to take a few roughing penalties here and there. The Panthers were able to contain that notion to stick up for your teammates, to stick up for your goalie and all those things. And they kept it relatively conservative for that team today. So I think it was nice that the Panthers didn't, I don't think the Lightning goaded them that much, but didn't fall for any of those tactics for today.
I learned from that cross-eye charge back in 2021 on, I believe it was Ross Colton. I believe that it was a long time ago. Yeah, so I was in the building for that one, unfortunately, where part of me was really thinking that the momentum in the series really shifted at that time. So you like we said, mature group. The team has matured so much since, and even Jon Cooper spoke about the different coaches as far as Hall of Famer, one who's going to win a Jack Adams maybe this year, and Andrew Burnett, and then Paul Maurice, the experience that he has. Quickly before we transition to segment number 2, the moment where I thought this game was won is where the Braden Point had a couple of opportunities in the slot. where this is how I wrote it down. OEL lost the battle right at the blue line, and then a feed to point in front. Bob made the save, retrieved it. Bob was way out of his net, and then Ekblad slides to block a Braden Point shot from a sharp angle too. And really from that moment, that was right before the Panthers scored on the empty net. That was my moment where I thought the game was won or lost. Was Ekblad's big block Braden Point, where a feed could have gone in the middle. The net could have been the net was empty for a second, but Ekblad said no way, that you're not going to allow this. And we spoke about the hit, but also the sacrificing of the body, reaching with your stick as far as protecting the middle of the ice, and that was my moment. How about yours?
I was going to say, those last few minutes before the empty net, and mine wasn't as articulate of a description. I just put point saved by Bob, insane. That's literally the 5 words that I used to remember that exact moment. But it was the exact moment before the empty net was potted there by Tkachuk. So that was the moment for me. There are lots of great moments in this game, but that one in particular was the one that sealed the deal. That really did seal the deal. That's nothing else was getting outside of any sort of intervention, which eventually did happen with the rest of that the power play goal by the Lightning. But luckily, that didn't amount to much. It was just a garbage time goal.
Yeah. So thankfully, it didn't amount to much as the Florida Panthers were able to just, like we spoke about, keep their composure and really couldn't take control of the game, because even before the last final minute, the last 5 minutes, the Panthers were really starting to play shut down, disrupt in the neutral zone, get the necessary changes. Nobody was playing a longer shift than they needed to. So that was really crucial as far as the Cats just being able to roll their lines easily. And even the fourth line getting a few minutes when they did pull the goalie, even before the Panthers went on the penalty kill with in the final minutes. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3. We're going to discuss more about what the coaches have said and also turn the page, as the Panthers and Lightning will be back at practice tomorrow. We're going to discuss this and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace for Major League Baseball. Tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch, with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices and views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets for sports, concert, comedy, theater, etc. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Third and final segment here on this Sunday, April 21st edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast. Once again, making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. And also, Locked On NFL Mock Draft is available now. The ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On NFL Draft to hear the local Locked On experts are picking for every team, with live reactions from the local college experts and even the fantasy football angle. Locked On NFL Draft is available now. Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Here with Francisco Oporta, Florida Panthers historian, to discuss more about this 3-2 win for the Florida Panthers over the Tampa Bay Lightning in game 1 of this first series between the two. Also, did you see that the Panthers, as far as their apparel, their locker room apparel, they have on the back of their shirts the Jason mask too?
I saw you posted that. Yes.
Yeah. So I saw one I saw the first person we spoke to was Sam Reinhart, And then I saw Bobrovsky wear it, and I'm like, okay, this must be a thing that everyone else is wearing. So they're taking it seriously when it comes to redemption and all that. So they're really living up to that big campaign in this. But man, and also Sam Reinhart spoke about just how everyone would just when it comes to their system, and also Barkov just setting the tone. I mean, we spoke about it, all three zones for Barkov, and and when it comes to like the back checking for him and just creating opportunities for them. I mean, it's just, we spoke about Verhaeghe, we spoke about even playoff Sam Bennett. That's a thing that goes back to Calgary, but even it goes back to just Sasha Barkov and just what he does. And it's not necessarily the points, even though he got 2 on the night, but just the style of play just carries over to this time of year.
So that's something that when we were mentioning about Kucherov, how the Panthers were playing Kucherov pretty hard, and if he had not gotten that point on the power play goal, I wanted to tweet out Kucherov with the O replaced with the 0, but unfortunately I couldn't do that. But there was I don't know if you remember earlier in the game around the first period where Kucherov had the puck and Barkov came up behind him, as Barkov often does, and sneaks through and picks the pocket of a player from behind when he doesn't realize it. He did that to Kucherov today. So Barkov is that type of player. He's so elite. He's one of the best all-around players in the game for several years now. And everybody follows that example because it's not just him that does everything. Now you see plenty of other players. Sam Reinhart also. Sam Reinhart's on the penalty kill. Sam Reinhart's on the power play. Sam Reinhart's all over the place as well. So the Panthers have a few guys that can play an all-around game, and then you have some of the guys that know their position, know what their true value and worth is for. And I liked how in the press conference, Paul Maurice was mentioning some of the guys on the fourth line, because there was a point around the second period where the fourth line guys had a bit of zone presence for quite a bit that kind of give the other guys a bit of a refresh on their legs there. But also mentioning Dmitry Kulikov and how Kulikov, we know is a stay-at-home defenseman, but Kulikov is willing to sacrifice the body, willing to put on the big hit as well as take on the big hit. So you also have to notice a lot of the unsung heroes, and I always like when Paul Maurice mentions those guys, because we all know the flashy guys. We all know Barkov, of course, who's the coal that runs this engine, essentially. But those other guys, everybody playing their bits, is what keeps this Panthers machine running completely. Everybody knows, everybody's a cogs in this system, and Paul Maurice has found a way to balance everybody. He, at this point, there's not much more you can say about Barkov. He's no longer a secret amongst anybody in the NHL. And I hope that as we move forward, he's like Patrice Bergeron had been, constant Selk trophy. Just 1, 2, 3, just give it to him. We don't have to vote anymore. Just give it to him right now. That's where we're at with Barkov. It's no longer, I think every single fan, every single person realizes that. I mean, he was the number one, was the fan choice for the first ever Florida Panthers awards this year as well. So it was, he's the guy. He's the guy. With the Panthers don't go much of anywhere without him, and so he garners so much respect from players. I also notice whenever there's, let's say, a save and the goalie's freezing the puck and Barkov's in there, players don't usually just opposing players don't shove Barkov around or anything like that. They treat him with like an air of respect. Now, yes, he is the team captain, and you have to also be careful with that. But there is an air of respect amongst everybody in the NHL towards Aleksander Barkov, and it's so well earned.
Yeah, now when people say that he's underrated, honestly, I'll be honest, it's lazy when people say
rated now. He's rated.
Yeah, yes, it's such a lazy term whenever people say that. And I'm so it irks me when I hear it. But also, let's talk about the crowd for this one. Spoke about really at the drop how very few empty seats at the Star Spangled Banner, but also Matthew Tkachuk talked about how he got goosebumps when hearing the crowd too, and just the fact that even, I don't know if they showed this on TV, but the light after well, not went out, but they turn off right before pregame festivities and all, and the Bobby chants already started even before the game, even before the referees decided to drop the puck and all. And just the way that the arena was ringing. I mean, yeah, a trip to the Stanley Cup final will do that as far as just lifting the spirits of the community too. But just the fact that they're still riding off that, and even with the loud Bobby chants, and then also what it's created really a big home ice advantage. I mean, yeah, they have a few more loser points at home than they do on the road, but it's basically for the most part equal now, thanks to that 4-game winning streak at the end. But I mean, this is why as far as history in the last 10 years, it doesn't record in the last 10 games that doesn't necessarily isn't always an indicator of success. But man, the last 4 home games really was crucial for that Panthers transitioning over to this game 1. Jon Cooper spoke about how they went away from their game plan because of how they dictated. And I think when Matthew Tkachuk spoke about the crowd and the goosebumps and all, it played a big factor.
Yeah, 19,356 sellout. People in Quebec City are in shambles right now. So, and as well as, look, the Amerant Bank Arena is a lot easier to reach and get to on time than Kaseya Center down in downtown Miami. So it was never the South Florida crowd. It's just the fact that our infrastructure kind of doesn't help us in a lot of ways to get to places on time. But Panthers fans have a much easier trek, relatively speaking, to the other. I guess only Hard Rock Stadium's as easy to get to compared to Lone Depot and Kaseya Center. So Panthers fans, and look, Panthers fans, that group of hardcore fans that stuck through that decade of futility, and then the last decade of so before finally getting to this point of actual contention, the best era of Panthers hockey we've ever seen. We're in it right now, and it's very well earned that the crowd is a good crowd, and they've always have been. It's just we never had a chance to show it, and now we have the opportunity, and now the bandwagon is growing again and growing further and growing the game. New practice facility, more learn to play programs for kids. It's a great thing to see. It's the way you grow this game. You don't shutter a team and then ship them off to Salt Lake City. But look what happened with Arizona. They've got some great youth programs that the Junior Coyotes are our top program as well. Austin Matthews came from there. And we've got some guys in South Florida as well. Gostisbehere, you've got a few guys that are growing. And so this is just the beginning. We're still at this. We're still at a point where a decade under the Viola Sifu ownership as well. And they've made so many great strides that, and you can even look at the other end of Tampa Bay as well. How much has been done to grow the game of hockey in the state of Florida? This Battle of Florida for the third time only helps because now you're having a rivalry. And it's great to have the banter between this side of South Florida compared to the west side of Florida, which I call the wrong side of Florida. So this is great. This is a fantastic showing. More Panthers fans than anybody else. I didn't really see many blue jerseys, which is also great to see.
Yeah.
So, and I would expect the same thing, vice versa, going over there. But I know there's always a contingent of Panthers fans that group together, get on a few buses and out over to Amalie Arena. So I can't wait to see that once we get to Game 3.
Yeah, I don't expect the crowd to overpower Tampa Bay unless it's like another 9-2, like we saw back in February. So we will see as far as that. But for this one, for the Cats, as far as community outreach too, with the Joe DiMaggio Children's Hospital, the other community activities, as far as the pub crawl that happened the day before the game too, it's just really, when it goes back to the whole Everglades to the beaches that Matthew Caldwell was trying to campaign right when they opened the practice facility. And that's really, yes, the ultimate selling point is winning, but combining all of that is really what it comes down to, as far as the Panthers and just the buy-in from the fan base for that. And you mentioned the learn to play programs, and for them it's just it just creates the grow for this region. And yeah, the Amerant Bank Arena is more closer to both counties, equidistant, more like. And I'm still upset that that Lone Depot Park does not have that shuttle from Colmer Station anymore. Thanks to Noah Berger for notifying me of that. So yeah, so yeah, thankfully Jeremy Taché also tweeted that thing from Kaseya Center that ESPN won't dare retweet because it fits their narrative as far as South Florida fans too, which got to see Jeremy Taché here at Amerant Bank Arena for this one. So
funny, it's only with the Miami Heat. They never talk about it with regards to the Panthers because they don't care about hockey, as well as the Miami Dolphins. I don't ever hear about that with the Miami Dolphins at all. So yeah. Sure, and well, nobody goes to Marlins games.
Hey, if I'm going to preach winning as far as attendance, that works with the Marlins. So we've had many conversations about you win, people will show up. And yeah.
Oh, I know. Do I ever know?
But Francisco, I want to say once again, thank you for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, as the Panthers defeat the Tampa Bay Lightning by a final score of 3-2 in regulation from Amerant Bank Arena to take a 1-0 seriously. The Panthers will be back at practice at 11 a.m. from Memorial, while the Tampa Bay Lightning return to practice at 1 o'clock from Amerant Bank Arena. So tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Yes, at FLA Cats History on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to be stuck there hopefully until mid-June. Hopefully posting a lot of things between today and then. And at Marlins History, if you want to see that train wreck with me, because it's a little bit fun to see how far they can go. But the hope is that maybe there's some sort of somebody from that team will be on the next great Marlins team. And I'm sure a lot of Panthers fans felt the same way 10 years ago, that 2013 squad, that 2014 squad that lost a ton of games. And lo and behold, here we are 10 years later and we're cup contenders. So you can only hope, and hopefully the Panthers create a lot of history in the next 2.5 months or so.
Mm-hmm. And we are living through too. Let's not forget that we with Sam Reinhart is 57 and then adding on to it. So we want to witness more of it as we are currently living through it. But Francisco, I want to say thank you so much, and hope to see you next time, my friend.
All right.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, Francis Oporta, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.